Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel. This time we're going to do a what's spinning. There might be one or two new albums in here, but most of this stuff is stuff that I've had for quite some time. Some I've just been pulling out and spinning, and some of it's stuff that I listened to a while back. I had a stack of stuff over in the corner there that just hadn't been filed away yet. Some of it's 1-2 years old. So just kind of run through this real quick. In the background, if you guys watch my VCLT video from Scott, he sent me a copy of the test pressing, the CD test pressing for X-Stol's reissue of Synergy. Who is doing it? I can't remember. I believe it's getting done on Brutal Planet. If I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure it's Brutal Planet though. Actually, you know what? It may be Rox Records. I can't remember which one. Regardless, this is not the reissue. This is my original from the original Century Media release from 2003. This is a fantastic album. If you're into technical death metal, progressive death metal, fantastic album. And I think Rob remastered this. It sounds fantastic. This has always sounded good, but phenomenal. So pre-order that. I can't wait to get the official copy. Next up, pulled this one out. I was listening to another Sodom album, I'll get to it in a minute, and ended up pulling out this. This is a Partisan 10-inch single from a couple years ago. It's got Partisan, Conflagration, and Tired and Red. Live, Tired and Red is fantastic on here. Next up, this one was VCLT from Lazarus. Fantastic band, epic metal, new wave of epic metal, I guess. Fantastic though. I love these guys' sound. I've gone through and listened to all their stuff now. All of it's fantastic. Highly recommend checking these guys out if you haven't checked them out. Favorite song on here is probably Language of the Dead. But I love this whole album. This is killer. What year was this? So 2017 when this one came out. I think this was wrong. I think it said 2017 on the back, but it came out in 2000. It's something weird. It came out in 2019, I think. Regardless, highly recommend checking that one out on Shadow Kingdom. Next up, just one of the all-time great albums. Doom Metal Pioneers, Witchfinder General. This is just such a killer album. I really want to find a really nice copy of their second album as well. You cannot go wrong. If you like new wave of British heavy metal, if you like Black Sabbath, doom metal, you're going to love Witchfinder General. Next up, Sin Dizzy. So what this is you've got Oz Fox, and I can't remember the bass player's name. Give me a sec. Tim Gaines from Striper. This was a side project that they did. This may have been about the time that Striper split up. I can't remember. Does it say on here? It just says 90, so it would be that time frame. This has Oz on vocals. The guitar riffs are the best part about this album. The vocals, some of them are good. I do like the album. I don't love it though. The drummer is horrible. I guess he was good friends with Oz. He's not a guy from another band like the other guys are. I think the drums really kill this album, but Gerder did a really good job of the reissue on this. If you're a Striper completist and you got to have everything, I would recommend this. Other than that, though, I would honestly just kind of skip that one. Next up, Raven. So what's the deal with this? Definitely hard prog. I really dug this. This was a gift from a couple years ago. I spun it a couple times when I got it and hadn't listened to it again. Man, it's really good. So this was a one and done band. It says here, think Primus meets Emerson, Lake and Palmer with a touch of Yes, Deep Purple, Rush, and Dream Theater. That's the dumbest. I mean, that's every different kind of prog you can think of thrown all together. It's the dumbest description I've ever heard. If you like really good hard prog, though, I really dug this. You can get this one for really cheap. It was limited to 500, but you can still get them for about 15-20 bucks. I can't remember where they're from. Let's see if it says. It's a U.S. band, though. Yeah, it doesn't say on here. I know I must have looked it up. Really good, though. Next up, Brother Scott Waters, Into the Pit. This is the most recent vinyl pressing that Retroactive did. I've also got the pressing that Rox did a few years before that was on the J card. I do like having it in the full jacket. Sounds really nice. If these are still available, definitely grab them while you can. Speaking of Scott Waters, this is actually a new one. I believe this was like number 2 or 3 on his best of list this year. Unfortunately, mine got botched up pretty good in shipping. Got crunched right there. Huge seam split. Fantastic album, though. I still like their second album the best. That's my favorite. The one with the big tiger head on the cover. But this is a fantastic album. And funny thing about this, the vocalist, Larry Dean, I always thought that it was a female singer in this band until I got this. I asked Scott, I said, what happened to the singer? He's like, what are you talking about? It's the same guy. I thought it was a girl for the first 2 albums. The first 2 albums that I have don't have pictures of the band, so it just kind of shocked me when I saw that it was a dude. And actually, once I found out it was a dude, I could hear it. You know, you just get that in your head sometimes. Definitely one of the best releases. I'd put that in my top 20 of 2000. I would say top 5 where Scott had it, but still fantastic. Back in Chicago, the Rivera broadcast, April 21st, 1976. I love this era of Thin Lizzy. All the hits are on. You got Jailbreak, Boys Are Back in Town, Emerald, Blue Boy, I love, Warrior, Rosalie, Suicide, Angel from the Coast, The Rocker. Just such a killer set. It sounds really good. The only issue I have with it is there is a, I don't know if it's a, I would call it a hiss, but there's a noise that goes all the way through. And it's just, you know, I'm sure they found an old radio broadcast tape somewhere. If it weren't for that noise, man, this could be released as a live album. It's that good. Fantastic. And one I definitely recommend picking up. Next up, Granicus. So, man, this album. When I first got this a few years ago, I listened to it a couple times. I'm like, man, I don't get why everybody likes this album so much. And then I pulled it out again about a week ago, and man, I've played it a bunch of times. It's a fantastic album. Part of that, the 70s hard and heavy, just really killer 70s hard rock. Let's see if it says what year. 73. This is fantastic. It's funny, I went to one of my local stores a couple months ago, and they had kind of a beat up, not too bad, but some ringware, a copy on the wall for 60 bucks. And I thought, score, I found an original pressing. It was the same pressing from like 5 or 6 years ago that somebody had just beat up. So the owner just thought it was one of the original pressings, and it turned out it was a repress. It just hadn't been taken care of. Anyway, if you guys are into the 70s hard and heavy stuff, definitely worth grabbing. That was one of those albums that everybody talked about for years, and I mean, originals were just so much money, so it's really nice that you can get these. There's been a couple reissues of that now. So I mentioned Sodom. This is the album that I was listening to, Till Death Do Us Unite. A lot of people don't like this era of Sodom. I personally love it. They had backed away from the thrash and gone more towards the punk side of thrash, and man, it's fantastic. I love this album. This whole era is just, I mean, I love Sodom all the way through, but there was something about this where they just, you know, my favorite Sodom albums are the early super raw albums. I like all of the stuff through the 80s and 90s, but just something about the rawness of those first couple. And while this doesn't have that same rawness, going to that more punk sound kind of gives it that feel again. Just fantastic. These were done by MOV. MOV did a really good job on these. I don't know if they're still easily available. Like I said, I've had it for a couple of years now. Next episode, my last hard rock and heavy metal video, I showed the newest Saint album. And after listening to that, it got me in the mood to pull out the first two full lengths anyway. And actually, it was just announced that I believe Retroactive is releasing their debut EP. I believe the repress is coming out tomorrow, so go on there and grab that because they've been doing a great job on these. But Time's End, just killer 80s metal. I don't think these guys get enough credit. Let's see, what year? 80? Yeah. So the one complaint that a lot of bands or a lot of fans have about the Christian metal is they were always a couple years behind. Well, this is a band that wasn't. They were right there, playing the modern sound as it was happening. They weren't reacting to what was popular like a lot of the Christian bands have done throughout the years. And so I think their debut EP was like 84. It might have been 83. Then you've got 86 when this one came out, and then 88 for their second album. But Retroactive did a phenomenal job on these. Really nice to have these on vinyl. They sound fantastic. Next up, new wave of traditional metal band, Screamer. They've gotten better with each album. I need to find their most recent live album that came out. I haven't grabbed it yet. This is Highway of Heroes. This is my favorite of the Screamer albums, and I love them all, but man, this one was just a step above the rest. This was 2 years ago. I think it was 2018 when this one came out. Phenomenal album. Highly recommend checking these guys out if you haven't. Another, these guys are more on the pioneering side of new wave of traditional metal. They've been around since pretty much the beginning. This is their most recent album, Slaves of Time. I believe they may have had a new one come out and I don't know about it, but this is Stallion. No, this is their new one. This was last year, so fantastic album though. This is one that I bought. I pre-ordered it and somehow it got mixed in with stuff that I had listened to and needed to be filed and never spun it. Fantastic. Again, and they play around with the styles on this one. There's some songs here that are straight traditional metal. There are songs on here that they're going for that thrash sound. A lot of speed metal. Just a fantastic album from Stallion. Next up, really happy to have this one too. This particular imprint has been hit or miss. I bought maybe 6 or 7 albums from them, and 3 or 4 have been fantastic, and then 3 or 4 I ended up selling because they just didn't sound good at all. This one's really good. This is Twisted Sister, Theater of Hunger. Let's see. July 18th, 1984 in Rochester, New York. Just a really killer. So I believe this one's a soundboard. Does it say? It sounds like a soundboard. Really phenomenal sound. 84. So you're talking about the Stay Hungry tour, and it's got all of those songs on here. Just fantastic. If you can still find these, definitely recommend grabbing that one. One of the all-time classics. I ran across this not too long ago, maybe a year ago, for really cheap, and I had to have it. I've always loved this album. This is my favorite from the band, but at least their first few albums are just absolute thrash classics. But this is Sacrifice, For Determination. I think this was 86 when this one came out, 87. This is the War on Music label from Canada, for just one of the Canadian thrash bands. Next up, a little bit of WASP, 95 Nasty. Just grabbing these 12-inch singles as I run across them. I think I've got one left of theirs that I don't have. Next up, the US Metal Volume 2, compilation. This may be my favorite of the U.S. metal. This one's fantastic. This was an upgrade, actually. The copy that I had just played the shit out of, and was really happy to find a sealed copy for like 15 bucks. But you got Wild Dogs, Exciter, Culprit, Le Mans, The Rods, Mike Batillo, Vixen. That's the Vixen that would turn into Hawaii, Marty Friedman's band. Virgin Steel and Failsafe. Fantastic. This comp back in the day on cassette. I'm pretty sure this was the first time I heard Marty Friedman. Next up, man, this is such an underrated album. This album is so good. If you run across, these pop up pretty regularly too for under 20 bucks. If you run across a nice copy of this album, it's a must-have. It's just a phenomenal album. We've got Fighting for the Earth from Warrior. This one's a little bit beat up, but it's the jacket, but it's a super clean white label promo. These guys were just so underrated. I can't believe these guys didn't end up being a huge band. Just fantastic metal. Next up, a little bit of Rush. It's funny. So this is the 2014, 2015 200 gram repress of Fly By Night. I was shocked when I went to enter this. I paid like 13 bucks for it used like 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. These are going for like 80, 90 bucks now. It's insane. Actually, all of the Rush reissues that I bought, I already had original pressings, so I didn't buy any of them new. I just bought the used ones. I've got them all for under 20 bucks. And man, they're all going for like 70, 80, 90 bucks now. It's pretty insane. Next up, a little bit of Styx. Not really hard rock or heavy metal. I just got in the mood to listen to this and pulled out my Japanese pressing of Paradise Theater. This next one, I remember hating this album back in the day, and I really enjoyed it. This was in my outbox, and I was like, man, let me give this one more spin before I get rid of it. And I don't know if I just wasn't in the mood the last time I listened to it about a year and a half ago. And I remember not liking it back in the day too, but it just really hit nice, and I spent it a couple times, but I'm really digging it. It is definitely 80s. A lot of the things I don't like about 80s metal is on this album, or 80s hard rock, but it's still a fantastic album. Fleetwood St Holmes. And just kind of a side note, is it Steve Pace? Yeah, Steve Pace from Hydra is the drummer on this. So this album is what led to Hydra splitting up, and Steve Pace thought he was set, He thought that Fleetwood St Holmes was going to be a permanent thing. He ended up quitting Hydra. Hydra ended up splitting up. And I mean, he did a couple songs or a couple albums with Crocus, actually 2 of their best albums with Crocus, and I think that was it for him. So not what he was hoping for, but regardless. Next up, The Rod. This is a new one. Super stoked that this got repressed. This has been kind of one of those pipe dream albums for a lot of us. It was a private press. These things go for 400 bucks and up, the original pressings. And man, High Roller just did a fantastic job. This thing sounds killer. I was kind of disappointed with the artwork at first because it's really fuzzy, but then I saw a picture of the original, and the original is the same way. So it just wasn't good pictures to start with. This is fantastic, man. They were definitely listening to a lot of Kiss when they did this album. At least I think they were. I hear a lot of Kiss in this. But man, this is fantastic. I can't believe none of the labels that they were on ever repressed this thing. It is phenomenal. Next up, another new one. One of the best albums of 2021 for sure. If you guys haven't checked out Chemist yet, they're fantastic. These guys, I believe this is their 4th album. They've been on 20 bucks spin the whole time. They finally got a major label release from Nuclear Blast. 6 songs. 6 phenomenal songs. These guys, oh man, how do you even describe them? Doom metal with a little bit of death, with a little bit of black metal in there. A little progress. I mean, it's really, really good. A lot of magazines had this as their number 1, number 2 album of the year. It would be in my top 5, maybe my top 10. Fantastic album, though. Highly recommend checking that one out. And any of their albums, all of their albums are killer. Pulled this one out again. Scott Waters and I were talking about Madrost. I don't remember why. Ended up pulling out their newest album again and giving it a few more spins. Charring the Rotting Earth. Again, killer technical thrash, progressive thrash. Fantastic album. Next up, Smolder. So Sarah's voice is growing on me. I've talked about this before. The band is fantastic. Sarah is one of the reviewers from Banger TV. I find that I don't agree with anything. 90% of what she says I disagree with. And when I first heard their first album, I didn't like it at all. It kind of grew on me. And it's because of her voice. Her voice is different. Every time I put one of their albums on this or the previous album, I don't like it at first. Her voice jars me. And then I start getting into it. And I really do like both of their albums. I don't know. There's just something about her voice, the character of her voice, that just throws me off every time. Just a couple left. Redeemer, The Light Is Struck. This is another one of those obscure 80s albums. I believe it was in the 80s, 88, 89. Yeah, 89. This is one of those albums that original pressings just went for crazy money. It finally got a repress by Cult Metal Classics, who always does a phenomenal job. I don't know what they were thinking, though. They put it in this ridiculously oversized gatefold. I mean, you can see a regular size LP underneath it and how thick that thing is. I mean, it's like as thick as 4 LPs, and it's a single LP. There's not a whole bunch of extra stuff in there. It's just extra thick for no reason. Killer album, though, if you can get a hold of it. Next up, Vengeance Rising, Once Dead. I think this is my favorite Vengeance Rising album. It's absolutely fantastic. 1990, they just killed it on this one. This is the recent repress on blue vinyl. I believe these are all sold out now. But Rock did a killer job on those. Excuse me. And then last but not least, I believe the second album from the Resurrection Band, later known as Rez, on Star Song. This is 79. This album is so good. Just really killer, bluesy, hard rock. Their first 2 albums are fantastic. They have a couple that I don't like in the 80s, but I think these first few are definitely my favorites. This is not the original pressing with the cutout windows. I ran across one of those a couple years ago, but it was pretty scratched up. I ended up finding this sealed copy for under $20, so had to get it. Highly recommend checking this one out. Just fantastic 70s hard rock, or 70s blues rock. That's it, guys. I hope everybody's good. Take care, and I will see you soon. Later.